All right. Awesome. Good morning. I am live from my room up here. I changed my room to see if it might be a little easier for you to be able to see what I'm doing this morning on Fun Art Friday. Um, just see if I can get this positioned here just a little bit different. No, that doesn't work. Seems like every week it's always a little bit different. And here we go. Alrighty. So, today for you, we are going to draw a dinosaur. And the dinosaur we're going to draw today is called an Astrodon, which is the state dinosaur of Maryland. Who knew there was a state dinosaur of Maryland? So, hey folks, good morning. Good to see you. Remember when you pop in, it's great to say hello. I'd love to see you in the chat. And of course, if you have any comments or questions, I would love to see them. It's a beautiful sunny day here in Maryland. I'm not sure where you are. You can tell me about what the weather's like where you are if you'd like. And I was just talking a little bit about how today we're going to draw a dinosaur. And the kind of dinosaur we're drawing is called an Astrodon. An Astrodon is, of course, a large dinosaur. It's big. It's probably, they believe it was about 30 feet tall and about 60 feet long if you include it all the way from the head to the tail. It's got a really long tail. And actually over here, you can see my drawing of it. And this one's all colored in. And then over on this side, you can kind of see the line drawing that I'm doing. Now, I'm wondering if you can actually see it. My camera today is really small, and I'm not sure why I can't see it. Oh, good. Micah and his siblings say good morning. Good morning, Micah. Good to see you. Well, actually, not actually see you, but good to have you here. I'm glad you're here. And can you guys see this drawing here? That's my question. I'm just trying to figure out the lighting and stuff to make sure that everybody can see what I'm doing. And my picture today is only this, it's tiny like this. Usually I'm big, and I'm not sure why I'm not big today, but anyway, I'm just trying to make sure everybody can see. So, and maybe if I take, is it better if I do it this way? Maybe it's a little bit better if we see it this way. Alrighty, so I'm going to go ahead and we're going to get started drawing. Now, I'm going to completely use crayons to do this. I like using crayons. Oh, good. She said we can see it, so that's good. We're going to use crayons today. You can use whatever you like. It's really up to you, but for this particular project, I use all crayons. Now, I'm going to use a blue to get started, because I like to try, for you guys, I like to use a dark color so you can see it, but you can use any color you like. Matter of fact, when I drew this one over here, I think I actually used a green because that was a little lighter, and it kind of goes with the background. So, you know, one of the things about dinosaurs is we know a lot about their structure, like how tall they were, because we can see their bones, but we're not really sure where their colors are. So we get to be really creative with the colors, but that'll be a little bit later. The thing we do know is we know about how the body goes. And we know that the Astrodon has a really long neck. He actually eats plants, so that probably helped him to go and eat out of the trees. And he's got this long back, and then it turns into his long tail. He has kind of trunk-like legs, almost like an elephant. And we're not sure about his colors. I gave him two colors, and like I said, we'll talk a little bit more about that in the end. They know they probably lived close to rivers or streams, so there would be a lot of green things to eat. Probably why they like Maryland. Maryland's got a lot of wet areas that are, I'm not sure what it was like back in that day, but it probably still had a lot of water and a lot of green things to eat. Another interesting thing to me was that the trees, and why I drew some of these really big trees, you're probably wondering why Mrs. Ciccone didn't draw the top of those trees. And that's because those are giant sequoia trees. Those are like the redwoods that grow in California. They actually had them here in Maryland. Isn't that amazing? And so, so even though the Astrodon is 30 feet tall, the trees are much bigger than that. And that's why I just drew the part of the trunks so we can draw it that way. And then I drew some other trees behind it because there probably were smaller trees too. And it was probably easier to eat those smaller trees. So we're going to go ahead now and get my crayon. Hopefully you have a piece of paper with you. And if you just want to watch me first and then draw it on your own, you can certainly do that. But I try to pace it so that you can draw along with me. All right. So one of the things I like to do before I get started is I actually like to use just my finger before I use the crayon. And we're going to make a big, long, somewhat curvy line. So we're going to start here at the head, and that's going to be pretty close to the top corner of the paper, the top right-hand corner. And then we're going to sloop it down to make a neck. That's the top of the neck. Then it straightens out a little bit for the back, still angling maybe a little bit down. And then right about a hand, well for me it's about a hand's width away, but right when you're getting towards the ends of the paper, you're going to turn it down and around to make a curved line. So it's going to be a really long curved line that we're going to do all the way from the top of the head all the way down to the bottom of his tail. And that helps us to know where everything is going to be. So I'm going to start with this top of his head, and I'm going to make my long line going down, just kind of angling, take my time. If I get about halfway down, maybe a little bit farther down, start flattening it out, and now I'm going to start curving it around to make the bottom of his tail. And I like to curve the bottom of his tail so that way it fits into the paper. Okay, good. All right. So once you get that first line is a pretty important line because it kind of shows us where everything is going to go. So now we're going to do the underside of this dinosaur. We're going to figure out how the rest of him is going to fit in here. So now on this one, I actually give him a little bump on his head. I kind of forgot to give him a bump on his head. So if you want, you can just draw a little extra bump and we can color that in later. And then I'm going to bring it down and around. I'm going to curve it up. That's actually his little mouth. And then I'm going to start back over here, come back a little bit to give the underside of his mouth. Now I'm going to make the neck, and the neck is going to be pretty much parallel with the other line, except that as it gets down towards this body, it's going to start getting thicker. Sometimes I actually put my finger right there to help give me a spot to aim to. You know, it gives me like a direction to go to. And that's the neck. On this side, I'm going to do the tail. And again, the tail is going to start out being pretty skinny and get thicker as it's going towards the back of his body, which should be somewhere around here. So I'm going to start thin, and then it's going to get a little thicker and a little thicker and a little thicker as it gets down towards the end, right towards his back side there. Matter of fact, I can just keep the curve going just a little bit, and that's going to give me the back of his hind leg has a little bit of a curve, and then it changes direction and it angles a little bit towards the front. It has somewhat of a flattish bottom. Sometimes you can see on this one I actually gave him little claws. Sometimes they show them with little claws, so if you want to give him a little claw like that. And then you can make it kind of, again, trying to make it parallel to the one you did. And then now this one's going to angle up and over, up and over. We're going to do these first, the legs on this side first, the front side of the side that faces us. Now we're going to do the same thing on the front. We're going to continue this line down. And kind of straighten it out as it gets kind of in line with this leg. He's got pretty much a flat but a slightly rounded bottom. Like I said, it's almost like an elephant. And now I'm going to bring the leg back up on this side. before I draw the second legs, actually the third and the fourth legs, the back legs, I'm going to go ahead and draw the belly in. So here's the belly. Draw a curved line like that. Now I'm going to draw the back two legs. This back leg is going to be inside of the first one. And so again, I try to make almost a parallel line. I look at the direction that this line is going, and I'm going to make it the same. So it bends where it bends, I'm going to bend. Where I have little claws, I'm going to make little claws. And again, if you just made both feet the same, that's really fine. One thing you learn about when you're studying dinosaurs is that they know a lot of things, but they don't know everything about the dinosaurs. So some things, sometimes you see illustrations of the dinos, and they'll be different depending on which one you look at, because I did a little research before I did this. I don't draw dinosaurs that often, actually. So this was actually kind of fun. This was a suggestion by Aiden. Some of you might know him from Redeemer. If you have a suggestion for what you would like to draw, you can put it in the chat box right now. Or you can join my Fun Art Friday group, which people can post their pictures, and then I'm always giving updates. And these videos will live there too. You can always see the videos if you go there. It's a private group, so only families and the children can be on that group. So that's kind of a safe place to put up your pictures if you'd like to. All right, so now that's the basic lines of this dinosaur, except that I didn't give him an eye. I always like to give him an eye before I'm done. And so that's kind of the basic dino shape. Now we're going to draw the background. And so we want to give the dinosaur some water, and I drew like a river next to him. Now I know it looks more like a stream in this picture, but you got to remember this is a 30-foot dinosaur, 60-foot, long. So this is actually a pretty good size. It's, maybe like the Gunpowder River or something like that. And so we're going to give, the thing about a river is it usually curves through the land. And so you're going to come down about maybe a third down the paper, and you're going to make a line that goes straight, but then it curves in, and then it curves back out again. And wherever it stops, wherever it meets the dinosaur, you just stop. Okay? And then you're going to make another line below it, and it's going to do the same thing, but it's going to be sort of parallel. So I'm going to make a line going straight, and then it's going to curve, and it's going to come back down around here. Do you see how this line kind of echoes this part of this line, but shifted over? Now I'm going to imagine this line is going through the dinosaur. This water is behind the dinosaur. I'm not going to draw it, but I'm just going to kind of imagine what angle I think it's going to go at. And I'm going to start again here, and again I draw relatively straight, and then a little bit of a curve, and back, and the same thing down here. I'm going to make it straight and then make a little curve so the curve echoes the one that's here, and then I make it go down around here. And of course there's no wrong or right way to do this. You try your best, right? But that's one way to make it look like a river's going through something. All right, now we're going to make those great big sequoia trees. And actually for that, I'm going to switch over to my brown crayon because I don't really want to have blue outlines on my sequoia trees. And so you can make, I guess I made 4 on this one. I made 4 on this one too, but on this one they're spaced out a little differently. But so I'm going to make some sequoias, and I'm going to make those trunks that go really pretty straight most of the time. They might be a little bit angled on the bottom. And again, if it intersects with the dinosaur, I just pick up my crayon and start again. That's how we do overlapping. Overlapping is a way of showing space. Okay, I'll do another one. Let's do another one over here. It's going to look like they're getting maybe a little bit thinner because they're going back in space a little bit. So I'm going to make it a little bit thinner as it's going back, but it's still really pretty big because these are the giant sequoias and they are really quite big. And if you want to give a bottom to them, you can kind of give them a bottom like this. It can be somewhat flat, little angle lines if you want to make it look like they've got a little bit of roots going through them. All right, now let's give it some, I'm going to create a tree line back here. So these are the small trees that are in the background. And so I usually create kind of a bumpy line to kind of indicate the tops of trees. But those trees are farther away. And then depending on how much space you have up here, this time I didn't leave myself very much space as I did over here. I'm going to throw a couple clouds up here. So I'm going to draw those with the blue outline. Boom. Boom. Now again, I don't have room for myself to put a sun in here, probably because the sun is so far up in the sky. But if you wanted to show a sun, like maybe you make it a sunset or a sunrise, you certainly could put a sun in there. That's really up to you. But I like to keep I don't usually put a sun in unless I know I'm doing a sunset or a sunrise. Alrighty, so now I have my basic drawing, which is pretty fun, but I want to finish it off. I want to give it lots of colors and patterns. So in this particular picture, what I did is I actually used a lot of lines to create patterns. And so what you do is you just use your color, and the nice thing about when you do this, you're almost like coloring and drawing simultaneously. So I'm going to create some texture for this. This is a little harder to see because I went over it. But first what I did is I made the texture of the kind of the texture of bark. So I just sort of made a line going down, but as this line goes down, I allowed my hand to kind of wiggle a little bit. So it gives a little bit of the texture of a tree. See, the lines can do more than outline things. Lines can create textures. Lines can create patterns. See how fun that looks? And just by repeating these lines, it really does give us the illusion of bark. Just always remember, when you're doing something behind, you just have to stop, pick up your crayon, and then just try to line it up with where you left off. This one's not as wiggly. I gotta add some wiggles to this one. I don't want it to be too straight because then it doesn't really look like a tree. All right, hopefully you'll be able to see what I'm doing here. Let me just make sure I don't have any other comments. Okay, looks like we're doing pretty good. If at any point you need me to stop or you have a question, please just put it in the comments. I'm very happy to look at them. I might not see it immediately because I'm drawing, but I really want to be interactive and try to help you, because usually whatever helps you would help anyone else who might be watching this video later on. Alrighty, so next up is, let's work on the dinosaur next, because he's kind of the focus of this anyway. Now in my mind, the dinosaur probably would have one set of colors on the top and one set of colors on the bottom. Now you don't have to do it that way. You can make your dinosaur however you want. I saw one picture of an Astrodon. It had like blues and like blacks. Another one had lots of greens. Another one had lots of browns. But you can make whatever color combination you like, because again, we don't have any photos of these dinosaurs, and you can't tell from their bones necessarily what colors they were. So, but I like to imagine that up on the top they had one set of colors, because it would be what people could see from what would look maybe like the sky. And then from the bottom, maybe it looked more like the ground. So what I did is I started up at the corner of the neck, of where the chin, kind of like that little edge of the jaw is. and I brought my line, I curved the line around just a little bit, and I made a line going I kind of copied the length of this, and then I echoed, it's basically an echo line, it echoes the shape. And I'm going to do the same thing and bring it all the way down to the tail. And that gives me a place to put one set of colors on the top and one set of colors on the bottom. The next thing I did is I thought it would be fun for the dinosaur to have a pattern up on the top of his neck. So I just divided it in spaces like this. Again, lines are great for helping us create patterns. And so actually I'm going to go ahead and just leave this. Well, no, should I leave this or should I work on the tree? Nah, let's go ahead. We'll just keep working on this guy. And so then I was thinking, well, he might have blues up on the top. Let me give some different blues though. I have some different blues here. Maybe on this one I'm going to make, instead of blue and pink, I think I'm going to make purple and pink. I think I'm going to make him blue and maybe this other blue. It's kind of purpley blue that I've been using to draw with. Now my pattern is going to be a simple pattern. It's just going to go back and forth between two colors. Pattern is anytime you repeat. You can be repeating a color, you can be repeating a shape, you can be repeating a line like we did in the trees and like we're going to do in the water as well. Just checking to make sure everybody's good. Now the tooth of this kind of dinosaur, oops, chose the wrong crayon. Teeth of this dinosaur were found in what is now Laurel, Maryland, about 140 years ago. Actually, no, even more, like 150, 160 years ago. And the person who found it sent it to someone he knew who was a dentist, and the dentist was also a little bit of he was a scientist, so he wanted to check it out. He wanted to look at this tooth, and he'd never seen anything like it, and so he sliced it down. He sliced pieces of it, and inside of the tooth he found that the tooth had a star pattern. And that is why he named it an Astrodon, because astro refers to a star. Later they found more fossils, and actually that part of Maryland in Anne Arundel County and Prince George's County, there's actually a lot of fossils. You can actually go and find fossils there. They have a dinosaur park that you can visit. I have not been there myself, but apparently you can. And if you go on weekends, that's when they do the dinosaur. That's when they look for dinosaur things. I think right now, because of COVID, it's not open. At least not the dig park, but you can still go to the park and learn more about the dinosaurs of Maryland if you like. And if you live in another state, I bet there's things about dinosaurs in your state too. It'd be fun to hear what other states people live in and what other kind of dinosaurs they have there, and you could learn about it, and then you could do a drawing about it. I liked using the warm colors on the bottom, so I'm going to go ahead and do that again. It makes a nice contrast to the cooler colors on the top. did on this one is I actually used a couple of colors. So I actually made the front of the dinosaur. The front of the dinosaur's legs actually had one color. Like this. I think I did it opposite of what I'm doing now. Made it kind of make the front of it one color. And you can color these any way you want. So that's, this is my interpretation, my suggestions that I'm having fun with. And then I have another color on the back of the leg, so it kind of looks different from different directions. Now I'm coloring pretty fast because I want to be able to get this done for you. You don't have to color as fast as I do, but Mrs. Ciccone has a lot of experience because I've been teaching for a long time. And I like to do things quickly so my students have time to do their own projects. But what's fun here is that you guys can do it while I'm doing it. Or later. Doesn't matter. And let's see. Let's make the top half of this belly this yellow. And then we'll go ahead and we'll use this red for the bottom of the belly. All right, that's pretty good to get him started. All right, let's go back to some of the other things we have going on here. All right, so here's our water. And again, just like we did with the trees, I'm going to use a repeated line to help make it look like the water is sort of moving down. And down here I kind of ran out of space, so I'm just going to make some extra lines down here. Boom. And I'm just kind of echoing the original line that I drew. If it's not exactly the same, it's okay. It actually makes it look a little wavier, and then sometimes you might throw an extra line in there. Okay. So I'm using these lines to help create movement and pattern in my picture. One thing I put up here that you don't see in here is these sequoias are actually conifers, so they're pine needle-y type of plants. So I just make a couple lines coming out, and then on either side of the lines I make my pine needles. Pine needles, pine needles. So diagonal line, and then little short diagonal lines coming out of either side. Those are my pine needles. And I'm sure someone's going to tell me that sequoias don't have big needles. Well, my sequoias do, so don't worry about it. They did say that there definitely were conifers, so there definitely were plants that had needles and that were green all year long. So if you wanted to, you could even make some of these look more like little pine trees in the back here. And so the way you could do that is just make a straight line up and down for the trunk, and then on one side you make diagonal lines go one way, and one side you make diagonal lines go the other way, and then behind them you can just even color in this green behind it. That's a nice thing when you're making a whole group of trees in the background like this. Really, you're only putting detail on the tree that's really the trees that are in the front, and then behind them you just kind of color, and it makes it look like there's a whole bunch of them. So here I'm going to just put a couple of trunks like this, and then I can make lines going this way, lines going this way. Again, it's kind of a nice way by using the lines. It's kind of a fun way to make texture and color and pattern kind of all at the same time. And our brains love those things. We as humans just love patterns. And I think it's just the way God made us, is that we have he made lots of patterns in this world, and so that's what we see. That's the way we see it. There we go. A little bit more back there. Squeeze them in. A little bit of a corner. Might be a little tricky back here. Not too much room. I think I'll throw in 2 more back here. Boop, 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 boop. So I actually did this different than I did my other one. So I change my mind as I go. This one's a little more accurate. This one I kind of made them look like apple trees back there. Probably not apple trees, but whatever. It's fun, right? We're having a good time when we're learning about the dinosaurs, and we're also learning about drawing. Alrighty, so let's see. Did I do all my patterns? I didn't do the patterns of the grass and stuff yet. And honestly, the way I did this is I actually did not put the lines in first. I actually put them over an existing layer of color. So I find, because I don't like to have to color around all my lines all the time. So I'm actually going to just take, my crayon just broke. So I'm going to just take this little side of a crayon and I'm going to color really pretty lightly. Just to make sure it's just not white of the paper. Just going to kind of color in lightly around the dinosaur here. Okay, and I'm going to do the same thing up here. Filling in those areas. Because basically what we're doing here is you're really creating a landscape. And in addition to creating this Astrodon, you're creating a landscape. You're giving us a feeling of space because you have things in the front, things in the middle, and things in the far back, which we call the background. Foreground, middle ground, background. And so you really are creating a piece of artwork here, not just a picture of a dinosaur. I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing with the sky, although I think I used the wrong, oh yeah, I did, this is the right color, this is the blue. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to color in my sky. Try to get all the big areas colored in before I finish with the details. Don't want to get ahead of myself. One thing you'll notice is I like to work on the whole paper. I don't just focus on one thing, finish it, and work on the next. I actually try to think about the whole picture and how the whole picture is going together as a unit. Because honestly, when you're done with it, you want all the pieces to look like they work together. So I like to work it that way. Not everyone does, and you don't have to. But I find that that's a good way to work. Okay, so now I have a pretty basic picture. I could be done by now. If I want to be done, I could be done. But when I was working on this one, I decided, no, I want a little more. I want to have some more fun with this. So I took some more crayons. And I drew some more plants. So I decided I would make some plants in the front. And then these plants would all have, I just made a straight line, kind of like I did with these. But because they're close, you're just going to see a couple of little leaves on either side. And it's just little teardrop shapes, okay? And I'm going to make another line. I made one on the top, 2 on either side, and that's all I did for these plants. You can make yours as many, however you like. But I wanted to do something that was relatively easy and repeatable. Because again, what am I creating by repeating things? A pattern, yes. And in the case of this, it almost creates like a little border. It's a little tough right here because I have a piece of tape, so it doesn't want to. And now I'm going to color on top of the crayons behind it. And this time when I use my crayons, I'm going to push down kind of hard, because I want the crayon to stand out from the crayon that's behind it. And I use a different green. You can even use the same green, but just push down harder and it'll stand out because you're pushing down harder. Again, that's a nice thing about crayons. You can make them light or you can make them dark. You just have to depend on how hard you push it down. Just like a pencil, honestly, works the same way. Then after I did this, I decided, oh, I really want to make some flowers. But I want to make some like really crazy flowers that I don't actually see in real life. And so what I did is I started with, I kind of made these crazy lollipop flowers. So what I did is I would make a little line again, and this time I put a great big circle over it, like it was like as a lollipop. And then I made a smaller circle inside of it. And then I just went ahead and I kept doing that. My lollipop flowers. So I'm going to start like lollipops. And if I wanted to, I could leave them like lollipops too. I could imagine there are lollipops growing. Wherever I feel like it, I want to put one in there. Kind of filling up the space with my lollipop flowers. Ooh, that one fell a little bit over to one side. I feel like I need one right over here. I'm going to have to put a little one back here. Boom, lollipop. Okay, so there's my lollipop flowers. But I think I'm going to give them some petals. So I'm going to go ahead and make a up and down curved line, just going around. It's like up and down, up and down. Mine have relatively short petals, but you could make them longer if you wanted to. You could even make them kind of spiky if you wanted to. You could just make straight lines going around. Sometimes there's flowers like that actually have spiky lines. I'm going to go around them though, because I want them all to be the same. Relatively the same. But I would love to see, I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys come up with. Go. You can either send your pictures to me through Messenger, or like I said, you can join the Fun Art Fridays fan page, and then you, once you're a member, then you can leave pictures. You can leave anything you like on the page. You can upload them there. But if you send them to me, I'll upload them onto the page for you so people can see it. And I can see it. See how fun that is? They really add, it's really starting to get fun. Lots of different designs and patterns going on here. And again, you can be pretty creative about what colors you use. You could even make your flowers different colors. I like to make them all the same again because I'm trying to create some pattern and unity. There's a lot of different things going on already in this picture, so I don't want to make it too crazy. Now I could have drawn these flowers first before I did the green background. In some ways that might have been a little bit easier, but this way I don't have to color around them because the color's already there. But you do have to push down a little harder with your crayons when you have to color over the colors that are already there. This is a funny crayon. It keeps sliding through the paper, which is why I have to keep turning it around. Woo! So crazy. All right, and I could even just leave those leaves just like that. And actually, for right now, that's what I'm going to do. Maybe they have some leaves underneath them. I'm going to give mine just kind of grassy-like leaves, almost like they're lilies, like daylilies, even though they look more like what do they look like? Cone flowers? I'm not sure. They look like Mrs. Ciccone flowers. That's what they look like. All right, now I'm going to keep going. I'm going to look around and I'm going to see if there's anything else I want to do this. We're getting close to the end here, and honestly, if you wanted to be done, you could. I just kept, on this one, I just kept going. I kept adding lines. I also added some curvy lines in here, swing ups. That's what they call them in our school. Swing ups. And I just find the more things that I add, the more fun that I can have making it. I looked like I added some more grass things, and again I was making like little clumps of grass just to kind of make a little more stuff going on here. And yeah, you can have a really good time. I added some rocks. Put the rocks in here. Boom. My rocks are just like a half, like a curved line. They're just really a half circle because you only would see half part of the rock as the water's going around it. So I made those rocks sitting in here, and I think I'm going to outline this guy one more. Oh, you might notice that on this one, he has got a kind of like a comb or a mane. And depending again on the illustration, I saw some that had none. I saw some that had it going all the way down the neck. Some have it going all the way down the back. And then there was a group that just had it up here by his head. And so I think that's what I'm going to do on this guy. He's just going to have it here on his head. I'm also going to go ahead and outline him with I'm going to take this red crayon and I'm going to outline him again to help him stand out just a little bit more, because there's a lot of this blue already in the picture and I want him to stand out. If you watched my if you watched the cake video, you'd notice that we did that. We put a contrasting color around all of the cakes to help those cakes pop, because that was something we learned from Wayne Thiebaud. He was the cake artist, and he did that, and it actually works really well, and it works really well for your dinosaur too. So that's why I went ahead and I did it on mine, because I want him to stand out. It's good to save your dark lines for the end, because then you can emphasize the things that you really want to stand out. And there he goes. There's our Astrodon. I hope you enjoyed drawing him. And are there any questions before I say goodbye for today? I'm going to stay up here just a minute. Next week, I will have another video posted at the same time. However, it will not be a live video. It's actually going to be it's going to be a pre-recorded video, because I will not be here. I'll be in Florida bringing my son to school, and so next week's we will be pre-recorded, but I'll have it shown on Friday, so that you'll be able to see it then, and maybe you'll even be able to see it whenever you'd like to see it. So I won't be here to interact with, but that's okay. And it doesn't look like I have any more questions. Looks like we're doing good. Alrighty, so bye-bye. It was great to have you. I hope you enjoyed drawing your Astrodon, and I look forward to seeing yours soon. Take care. Bye-bye. Mrs. Ciccone has to learn how to press buttons properly. Boom.